welcome to another episode of What's the Point, the podcast that helps you find meaning and fulfillment through the stories of truly inspirational and exciting leaders that I'm delighted to know and work with. One such is David Hexter, COO of Serena Organics, who I know through work in London. And David has got such a beautiful aura about him and magnetic approach to his work and daily life. And I am thrilled to be joined by him today. So David, would you introduce yourself way better than I could?
Absolutely. And thank you for your kind words. You're making me smile too much. Thank you, Dani. So I'm David Hexter. I serve as a COO and co-founder for Serena Organics. We're a science and wellbeing company that have been running about 5 years now. We provide organically grown CBD to our community, helping people mostly tackle anxiety, stress, and sleep. We founded the business initially with myself and my fellow co-founder, Joe, through our work in Canada and the US, where we realized at the time that they were creating really high quality organic CBD products, whereas in the UK at the time, there was really poor quality products, no testing going on, a lot of products being sold in the market at the time actually had no CBD in at all, so it was creating a big mistrust. So we set out with the purpose of bringing that premium quality from the US to the UK market, and happy to say we've done that over the last 5 years now.
And in that premium quality, very exciting news if you want to share.
Yes, yeah, we just launched in Harrods a few weeks ago, which is great for us. Something to build on in the retail space. We did actually launch within Selfridges within our first 12 months as well. So that was also a really good validation for the quality of our products. And now we're looking to expand into other areas as well, including premium 5-star hotels to help partner with them to help support their guests with their sleep. Because obviously a lot of people who travel, whether that's through work or going on holiday, they often struggle to sleep in a new environment. So we've created a specific products just for their rooms, so to help them with their sleep. But we also we have a massage oil as well for the spa to help enhance their treatments, to help help enhance muscle relaxation and joint stiffness / pain whilst they're getting their treatment. And also now we've just had a few of our products certified suitable for professional athletes by a company called Informed Choice. So all all sports clubs that use product, they have to have this certification. So this has been about 5-6 months in the making for us. So just had that approved now. So we're also looking to expand into sports clubs as now. So exciting future on the horizon for us.
David, it is exciting. And, of course, the organizations that are supporting your work, Harrods, Selfridges, etc., truly represents the quality of your products. But for me, also represents the quality of your leadership and the way that you're developing your business. So amazing. So as you well know, I don't like to mess around. I like to get straight into the heart of matters. So let's begin. And David, what would you say is the point of your life?
The point of my life, I'd say, for me, it's an interesting one. When I was younger, I never really had much idea of what I wanted to do. So I was very much like brought up in a loving family, very much around like enjoying life, like feeling fulfilled, feeling content, basically focused around happiness rather than like, this is what I want to go to achieve in my life. Whereas as I've grown older, I've realized actually for me to actually achieve those things, I actually need to have a focus on what I actually want to be doing. So I had to hone in on what I wanted to be doing in life. If I can get into my background, I went into physiotherapy as a student studying at King's College London. And that was basically because of my love for biology and science at the time. So, and also sports. So I thought in my mind as a younger person, I could combine my love for sports and science by becoming a physio and working for Manchester United, basically. As I progressed through my 3 years of university, it quickly became apparent that actually physiotherapy is very much NHS heavy or private heavy. It's not so much sports, although you can of course make a great career in the sports sector as well. I realized it was more around elderly care, ITU wards, stroke wards, cancer wards, and it was taking me away from that space where I really wanted to like enjoy myself and be happy essentially. So I had to rethink what I wanted to do after university. I completed my degree, but then I had to rethink, okay, how can I apply the skills I've learned and try and work towards something where I'm going to be more fulfilled. I moved into the corporate worlds, where I ended up working in sales for a number of years. Was able to achieve, like, thrive and survive in London, which was my aim, because I'd loved living in the city, originally being from Bristol, so a countryside boy now living in the city. So I needed to find a way to thrive and survive, which I managed to do. But I realized, actually, as I was getting later into that role and became quite successful within it, that even though I'm now doing okay, I'm not fulfilled essentially within what I'm doing in life. I'm sort of lacking that contentment around the role I'm doing. Whereas what I realized when I went into physio, I very much enjoyed the fact that I was helping people, able to support them, like the empathy side of things, and the connection I could build with people as patients when I was treating them was I absolutely loved. But I didn't love that specific environment I was working as a physio. So how could I then take that and apply it in a role where I'm using everything I've learned over the last sort of 10 years and apply it to a new role where I can also be helping people? And that, fortunately, I was fortunate enough to meet Joe, who sort of opened my mind to sort of running our own business. And as we had this opportunity come up for Serena Organics, I saw a pathway to really make a step into something of my own where I could also thrive and survive, but also in a going down a route where I was actually helping people's well-being. So it's actually connecting with people again, actually supporting their needs, being able to make a living, but also make an impact in the world as well. So rather than just doing something for the money, it was also you're doing something to actually make a positive change in this world. So for me, I was fortunate enough to sort of see that, but it took me a while to really realize what my point was in life. I think when I was younger, I was sort of head in the clouds, whereas it took me to my late 20s to 30s to realize, actually, I really want to be doing this. And that was sort of supporting people and helping people while sort of making a living as well.
Beautiful. And as I said at the beginning, you have this beautiful, beautiful aura about you, and the well-being space and what you're doing to make a difference in that area is so complex and multifaceted. But in that, David, what would you say you're seeing at the moment? What trends would you say you're seeing in people?
Well, I think since lockdown, I think a lot of people have definitely invested more into their health. I think before I definitely noticed there wasn't so much. Even if I'm taking myself as a case study, and I can see in other people as well, I used to have a routine where I'd go to the gym quite regularly throughout the week, but I'd also have a routine where I'd happily go out and socialize often more than I'd focus on my health. Whereas now, I'd say since lockdown and since really working in the wellness industry, I've seen a shift in people really investing more of their, not just time, but also money in their own health, investing to do certain events, whether that's like a triathlon, a marathon, a 10K run, even whatever that might be. It's buying the latest equipment, whether that's a new bike, investing in going to like a higher end gym, which might have like a swimming pool and a spa, just places where people actually, rather than wasting on material things, they're suddenly investing more into their health, which I think is an amazing change. It's a shame it took a whole pandemic to sort of for people to make that shift, but if there was ever a positive to come from that difficult situation we had for like those 1 to 2 years, I'd say that's the biggest change I've seen, is people really investing in their health more.
Fantastic. And you mentioned you and not socializing so much and looking after yourself more. So what strong steps and habits do you have for yourself?
Good question. I think ever since I started a business with Joe, I've had to really, you hear a lot of where people have to put a structure in place, but they also have to sacrifice things that aren't necessarily contributing to what they're trying to achieve. And I really had to look at what I was doing previously. Even though I was doing well within my corporate role, I was still very much socializing probably 4 or 5 times a week. Whereas now, if I tried to do that, it's not contributing to what I'm trying to achieve. I'd rather sacrifice that and actually invest my own time in spending my evenings working towards the business, or spending my evenings connecting with people who might be able to help us grow, rather than doing what I was doing before. Whereas there's always a bit of a transition phase where you feel like you're having to let go of something that you really enjoy doing. But looking forwards, you suddenly realize that actually it's not so much a sacrifice. You're just spending more time investing in what you want to do. And I think the rest, that making that shift and then having a structure in place where when you're invested heavily in something, you can very much fall into like a bubble, and you can very much sort of lose yourself in really working towards that and trying to make that a success. So I try and structure my week where I'll spend at least once a day exercising or doing some form of activity that will take my mind away from the work I'm doing, so I can come out with a fresh perspective. So whether that's going to the gym, swimming, cycling, playing football, or just going for a walk in the morning just to reset, I try and structure my week so I have a routine in place that allows me to focus on work, but also come back with a fresh mind and a stronger perspective to really focus on what I'm trying to achieve.
David, what you've said there really, really resonated, because as you know, I work with a few leaders, and I think not only people that have their own empire, if you like, to run, those entrepreneurs, but certainly people in certain sectors, some are springing to mind, do definitely lose themselves in their work, and of course, thereby their relationships, their family. Sometimes they get lost, and that really resonated what you said, and I'm so glad that you are very aware of it and take those strong steps for yourself. But then looking at it more broadly and just stretching that idea for a moment, how would you say, running your own empire with Joe, that you avoid negative experiences like burnout?
Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, it's when you're so heavily invested in something, it's something that naturally you can fall into. But I think most importantly would be the structure around really setting time aside to actually focus on my health. So whether that's eating well, going to the gym, just having at least an evening off to just relax and socialize, catch up with family, just do an activity where you're not thinking about the work you're really trying to focus on, because you can just become so heavily invested. Like you said, you can neglect relationships you're in. It can affect people you're spending a lot of time with. If suddenly like you're not the person you were before because you're so focused on something you're trying to achieve, you end up compromising relationships you've built and developed to that date. So it's really giving yourself time to self-care, essentially, because it's working hard on something towards something you're trying to achieve isn't necessarily self-care all the time. It can, like you say, lead to burnout. So just making sure you allow time or block out time in your diary to give yourself that self-care. And that for me would be going to the gym, playing football, socializing with friends occasionally in an evening, and speaking to family. So just moments where you can reset and just recalibrate.
Fantastic, that's great. And we're talking about you and your business here. So are there any products that you'd recommend for like a real nourishment of the self?
Yeah, so for myself, I take our oil drops every morning. A lot of people take oil drops for anxiety, for sleep, and for pain. I actually take it more for just general mood, because it can be quite stressful running a business. You don't know what's going to come at you any given moment. Every day is different. So you could have a very high day, then the next day you could be trying to solve 20 different problems. So I just take it to more just balance myself, so I don't find myself being so reactive. When a problem does come, I can take that extra breath almost and sort of take action with more of a stable emotional state rather than reacting in a more frustrated state. So for anyone who finds themselves becoming quite overwhelmed with work they're doing, or they feel like they're very they easily get stressed, whether that's in meetings or whether that's just with the workload they have, I'd always recommend our oil drops. If you're a first-time user of CBD, we start at 10%, which also comes in flavors. 10% is higher than most mass market brands. It's 1,000 milligrams in a 10 ml bottle. To put that into perspective, a lot of the drinks cans you get in the supermarkets, for example, they're about 25 milligrams to 30 milligrams in a whole can. So you're getting 1,000 in a 10 ml bottle. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck. But we also go up to 15% and 40%, which is 4,000 milligrams. So that's really for people who really want to tackle severe issues, whether that's insomnia, severe anxiety, really chronic pain. But also if you're someone who has a high tolerance to CBD, we all have individual tolerances. So it's all about finding where yours sits. Some people naturally have high tolerances, so they will have to take a high percentage to get the same effect from the same number of drops as someone who has a lower tolerance and takes the 10%, for example. So yeah, we'd always recommend the oil drops for people who are maybe feeling that burnout, as it were.
Awesome. And then moving it all forward with the people that you've worked with looking at the well-being space, with where we're going, what does the future look like to you in, say, 5 years' time, David?
In the well-being space? It's a good question. So I've seen companies adapt their approach to well-being. I think it's going to be very much more like a community-led approach to well-being. So at the moment we have like gyms where people come and work out, but it's not so much, it's only one service. You go there to work out, and then say if you want to go see a physio, you go separately to your physio. Say if you need to get to your osteo, you go see separately to osteo, nutritionist, etc. It's not collated. Whereas I've seen a shift where companies are now combining everything together and creating more of like a wellness center. And this is actually a vision for ourselves at Serena Organics, where in the future we actually want to open up our wellness center. So it's almost like a hub, almost like a private members club, but rather than a private members club where people just work or socialize, it's an area where they could also work, but they could have dinner, they can work out, they can have a cold therapy plunge pool, they can have a sauna, steam room, infrared sauna. It's a full holistic approach. They can also work out if they want to. They can see a specialist, a physiotherapist, or an osteopath, or have their own personal PT. And it's just an area where people can come and really focus on their well-being, but they don't have to go to different areas to really get all the needs to satisfy all their needs. They can get it all in one place. And I've seen some companies already start to do that, and I think that's already making some headway in America. So that's definitely the way I see the wellness industry moving, and it's definitely something us at Serena Organics want to be looking at in about 5 years' time too.
What a fantastic vision. And then on the other end of the spectrum, when life does exacerbate you, when it hasn't all been going right, what is it that keeps you going?
Good question. Not just the CBD oil drops, but I think thankfully I've got a very close community of friends and family. So fortunate enough to work with Joe. If I ever need to soundboard any stress I might have or any issues I'm going through, I can always turn to him as not just like my business partner, but best friend as well. So he's also a very supporting figure in my life. But thankfully, a lot of my friends are there for me if I need to share any difficult moments or ask them for advice where I might be a little bit stuck. And thankfully, I'm fortunate enough to come from a very loving, caring family. So they're always there as like a foundation for me to fall back on. And even if it's not me going to them and asking for like specific help, sometimes it's just being in their presence and just resetting to almost becoming that younger self where you forget about the stresses and trials and tribulations of the life you're trying to achieve and the path you're currently working on. And sometimes that reset is just enough to come back the next week on a Monday and just feel better and feel ready to go again.
Wonderful. So warming to hear this. It really is. And how you navigate the inevitable curveballs that life throws at us, and that your support network around you is so wonderfully enriching. That's wonderful to hear. And then looking at values, because that's the world that we live in. Everybody tends to have some values that guide them. What would you say are your 3 values that you live by?
The 3 that jump out, I'd say honesty is the main one. Reason behind that, I think, especially in business, when you're trying to build partnerships, build collaborations, build a community, it relies a lot on trust. So you need to be honest in what you're trying to achieve. And sometimes people don't necessarily want to use the product. So if you're honest in what your purpose is and what you're trying to achieve, it just might not be right for some people. Whereas if you're honest in what you're trying to achieve, you can actually speak to people who actually are looking for that need themselves. And so what we realized at the time, and I mentioned earlier, is the CBD industry in the UK was it was developing a lot of mistrust, because they were saying there was like 10% in a CBD bottle, and there was actually in fact like 2 or 3%, or in some cases no CBD at all. So there was companies who were trying to just make some money quickly, jumping on the curve of the CBD industry was quickly growing, rather than thinking of a long-term, this is something I'm trying to build to help people for the future based on trust. So that was actually a huge part of us setting up Serena Organics. So I'd definitely say that. So honesty is one. I'd say ambition to grow and really try and make a difference in this world. Ambition would be a big one. So obviously you want to try and make a positive impact on people, and I think without that, you can fall quite short. And I'd say integrity as well. So just doing things, not just doing things that you want to do or feels fun to do. It's almost doing things because it's actually the right thing to be doing, even if it's sometimes even at a detriment to yourself. You got to be thinking about the wider reason you're doing it, and often, for the example of Serena Organics, everything we do isn't necessarily for us. It's for the people we're trying to impact. So just making decisions based on that and remembering that, rather than saying yes or no to something just because actually it feels like something you got to do. And we've had moments in that. I remember when we were raising money where we went through those difficult times of really trying to, like, numerous meetings, different investors, and there was a moment where we got offered the money, but the person who was offering the money was trying to basically take the whole company from us and trying to guide us down a path which we didn't believe in ourselves. Even though he was suddenly offering us everything we wanted, we had to stay true to what we believed and what we actually felt was right. So even though it was what we wanted, we still said no to it, and we knew that actually we can get it elsewhere, and with people who actually believe in us and actually see what we see.
And the reason I'm smiling so much is I know that you fully live all of them, but certainly the ambition. I love that. The honesty, all of our conversations have been, grassroots and earthy honesty, haven't they? But integrity, case in point, I hope you don't mind me saying, but last week we were due to have a call on Tuesday, and I got this panicked call from you on Monday going, Dani, I'm not going to be on our call. I'm not going to be on our call. And I was at the train station and I was like, David, it's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. And you were like, I'm not going to be doing what I said I'll do. And it's like, it's fine. It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. I know you did. I could hear it in your voice. And I know that you living what you say you will is so high for you, which is why I adore you so much, because I really value that in people. So that's that. Love those values: honesty, ambition, and integrity. And how would you say they keep you focused on living the point of your life?
I think it just helps keep me on track. I feel like if there's ever moments where I'm not adhering to those three, I feel like I'm almost veering off what I'm trying to focus on and what I'm trying to stay true to myself and achieve. Because there's moments where I'm sure I'm not the only one, but where we say we want to do things, but our actions don't necessarily meet what we're trying to do. Even if we want it and we say it, we'll still just go back to doing the things that we feel comfortable doing, or it's just easier to do, or we just routinely always done. So I feel like if I stay true to those three, it actually helps keep me on track. And I was given an example earlier about bank holiday weekends, where this bank holiday weekend just passed recently, where I was actually just spent the whole weekend focused on work and working on myself and a few things I've been trying to put time into, rather than going out and socializing. And at the time there was that feelings and urge of like, oh, maybe there was invitations to come out and the temptation was there, but I realized actually it's going to take me away from what I actually want to be doing. And then come beginning of the week, I was so grateful that I hadn't, because I could see the progress I'd made and the steps I'd taken, which wouldn't have been there previously if I just gone out and enjoyed myself. So I feel like sticking true to those three values helped me in the moment stay true to what I want to do, and then be grateful for it tomorrow or the day after.
Oh, wonderful. I told you, everybody, that he had a beautiful aura. Told you. David, before we bring this into land, is there anything you'd like to share with everybody, or indeed let people know where they can access you and your amazing products?
Yeah, absolutely. If anyone interested in finding more about Serena Organics and the work we do, they can find us on our website, which is serenaorganics.com. Also our Instagram or social media handles are Serena Organics CBD. Our details are on there, so if anyone wants to reach out to myself and Joe, they're welcome to do that by email, and we always try and come back to our community and share as much information and knowledge with them as they can. So open to any questions.
Oh, David, thank you so very much. Thank you. Honestly, this has been an absolute joy to do this with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dani. I appreciate it.
Loved it. So thank you, everybody listening and tuning in, watching, however you're absorbing this podcast. I hope you found the content pertinent and important. This has been another episode of What's the Point? Thank you again, David Hexter, for joining me.
Thank you, Dani.